I'm gonna get started in just a minute. Let me share out my link. Obviously, I always do the impromptu lives, so I just pop up, give it a few minutes, and then I'll proceed with the content. My connection not acting funny. Make sure you hit the thumbs up. All right. So, what we're going to be doing tonight, we're going to go backwards to unravel. Again, people be acting oblivious to what's going on with R. Kelly, skip around how he ended up in the position he's in, skip around how these people were able to go to these prosecutors, to the grand jury, present to them that this man is sadistic, he has a cult, he's um, trafficking, he has sex slaves. All of these narratives were the origin to why R. Kelly's in the situation he's in. So obviously, those of us who followed the case and saw how those allegations that were so salacious in the tabloids about having a cult is what really triggered a lot of people's curiosity, like mine. It wasn't just to be fascinated on R. Kelly per se. It's the fact that these people telling you this man got a cult. That's very interesting. So the first couple things we're going to look at tonight is we're going to get the example to what people like me thought of when we heard about a cult. We're going to explore some strange connections that I also uncovered, especially when it came to individuals who came out talking about this infamous tape that have dealings with individuals that also have had affiliation with the specific cult that we're going to explore tonight. But like I said, I'm gonna sit here, wait a little minute, see if anybody get their notifications, cause we know YouTube be tripping. Some people don't get their notifications till days after the fact, but that's neither here nor there.
They tried to bury truth under noise, but truth does not suffocate. Rewrite, control, spin. You had volume, I had evidence. Truth doesn't. Yeah. They think they know me, huh? They only know the story they sold you. They tried to write my ending before I hit my prime. Took pieces of my pain, cut it, clipped it out of time. Turn my tears into headlines, my scars into shows. Told you they were saving off the secrets they exposed. You watched them twist my trauma into dollar signs and praise. They never asked what I remember, just replayed the same old frames. They branded me survivor, but left pages torn in half. Put my name up in their mouth while they edited the past. Surviving lies, you can't bury what I lived through. You televise my pain, but here's the things you did too. You pointed at a monster just to cover all your crimes. Surviving while a man was a star. Surviving lies will change the time. Surviving lies, yeah, I'm staring in your eyes. You look straight into the truth. Are you dressed it in disguise? You wanna write my story, you forgot I hold the pen. Surviving was beginning. Surviving lies. They love a public circus just to keep you from the proof. Throw a woman on the stand, then they edit out the truth. They frame it as a rescue, but the rescue feel like change when the people doing interviews to move the same way. They stand beside the predator, like they sit beside the prey. They smile for every camera like they never looked away. You see the way they profit off confession, off my hurt, but never asked who built the cage, who bought the keys first. Surviving lives, you can't bury what I lived through. What I know is someone that cares about Mr. Kelly, and Mr. Kelly is aware of that. Real ones see the patterns, see the copy, see the paste. How they drag one name through fire just to cleanse their own disgrace. You called it justice while you hid your own reflection. Turned a witch into a weapon for protecting your connections. I'm not here to clear his name, I'm here to clear out all the smoke. Cause if you're standing in my corner, why you silent around your folks? Surviving lies, you can't bury what I lived through. You televise my pain, but here's the things you did too. You pointed at a monster just to cover all your crimes. Surviving one man was a start. Surviving lies will change the times. Surviving lies, yeah, I'm staring in your eyes. You look straight into the truth while you dressed it in disguise. You wanna write my story, you forgot I hold the pen. Surviving one was just beginning. Surviving lies.
All right, let me go ahead and get started. Anybody else, they're going to have to just catch the replay and rewind, because all of this is going to make sense as to how I structured my research as you do your reviews, as you go back to validate the things that I'm saying, as you begin to line up how I put my information to give me the perception that I have when it came to the original claims that were brought to the internet. How I watched all of these characters come out exposing this person, exposing that person, skipping around crucial information that made people give it the side eye. Now, even with Surviving R. Kelly, if they let these people get up there and tell their stories, then they came back and gave other points of view, that would be different. But the way that specific documentary was structured, they did what they did. They knew exactly the purpose. And as we saw, it was used to trigger an investigation. My thing is, when everybody talks about this case, when they talk about R. Kelly, Even when they talk about what's going on now about him being unfairly treated, every time there comes time for paperwork, it's always bullshit going on. When people skip around the inhumane treatment, the civil rights violations that were allowed to go on during his case, they might not see why individuals want him silenced so desperately. They won't recognize why people felt it necessary to stand up and start to speak out. And it wasn't always to defend what they felt like were these allegations, but more so to give balance to the information that we were being subjected to. For example, let's talk about this cult stuff. The first thing we're going to watch tonight is the definition of a real cult. And we're going to go take a look at the Nawabians. And the reason we're going to look at them is because, again, when I was doing my research and I look at one of these key players by the name of Lisa Van Allen, she comes out here, she gives her story, she includes that she was having a little affair with a minor, according to her. She lied to the public, telling the people that she was a minor. It took all the way to the goddamn trial for people to realize what I've been saying for years on these platforms. The motherfucker wasn't no minor. Number two, if she gonna get on these platforms and admit to crime, why ain't she being prosecuted while people are talking about he has a cult, these people are enablers, he couldn't do this by himself, etc., etc. Then when you start to dig into her, you start to search her name, you start to uncover other names like Damon Pryor. And you start to look at, hey, if people are going to turn a blind eye to what they're doing to this man, because you got people on these platforms, well, I watched the tape. I saw the tape back in the 2000s. That was him on the tape. That was a little girl on the tape. First of all, I don't have a bone in that fight because I don't watch porn, number one. Number two, the reason why I collected a lot of the images that I got was because I just typed in R. Kelly sex tape. And when I asked a lot of people in the real world about the subject matter, a lot of them recall when they first started hearing about the tape, it was being told R. Kelly has a sex tape. It wasn't no R. Kelly's on tape with a little girl. So the fact that people get out here and be like, yeah, I know it was a little girl on the tape, that makes you look a little suspect, if you ask me. But these are the type of people that individuals will gaslight to feel like, okay, yeah, they're right, and not ask no questions. Because if people felt like that, let's go back to the first trial. Let's go back to the fact that his defense attorneys intended to subpoena this guy that I'm mentioning by the name of Damon Pryor, which they ended up not having to do. My thing is, like I said, his defense could have spent the block on that matter. But guess what? From my perspective, I also believe that because there were so many copies dispersed out here, so many people doing janky ass shit, they wanted to give the illusion that they had an abundance of these freaky deaky tapes. When in actuality, like I said, a lot of this shit is copies. And if you ask me, a lot of it was manipulated. Nobody ever got on these platforms and said that it was AI, because obviously that would be stupid as hell. But you'd also be a goddamn fool to not know that there was technology available to alter photos and videos in 98, 99, 2000, 2001. So, with all the technology we have today, to allow people to come back and bring back those specific charges with all the technology we have, it should be obvious why people should have the right to still have reasonable doubt. But then when you introduce that element of people tampering with witnesses, doing this and doing that, trying to intimidate them, coerce them, that's a whole different ball game. When you have people implicating them in crimes and then running around here acting like they don't know who the so-called enterprise is when they specifically told you, especially when it came to the New York trial. They told the people who the enterprise was. The people that went to the trial saw some of them on the stand testifying for the prosecutors. Now, with that being said, my opinion, if there was a better defense, they could have really separated any of those things that they were connecting to R. Kelly, trying to demonize, trying to make it seem like he was trafficking these so-called minors, even though if you look at the paperwork in New York, they had Aaliyah for the bribery charge. They had Jane Doe number 2 and Jane Doe number 3, Jane Doe number 4 that were supposed to be minors. Jane Doe number 5, that was a little bit questionable. When you have Jane Doe number 4 and Jane Doe number 5 who openly say they lied about their age, that tells you a lot right there. Then you got Jane Doe number 6 who comes in talking about she was infected but needed to go back in and get more evidence. Nobody wants to talk about his medical records, as the government is allowed to put a janky ass doctor who's also breaking the law on the stand to corroborate their accusations. You got people on these platforms that believe witness statements verify information and should count as evidence, and then misconstrue when I say that don't prove shit to me because people got on the stand and lied. Now, when people can go back, revisit transcripts, and prove each and every lie, that's another matter and not my job to do. Now, is it? Now, I'm going to park it right there because I want y'all to see the difference in what a real cult is, something that this guy, Damon Pryor, affiliated himself in. Damon Pryor, who was also affiliated with Lisa Van Allen, the same person that in one of her interviews with Vlad, she tells you she left R. Kelly, went over here, had a baby, brought that baby back to R. Kelly. But we are to believe he preys on children, and she was that comfortable to go have a baby on this man, bring that baby back, tell the people that she's on the tape with a minor. Fast forward to get to the trial, the girl ain't say nothing about being on no tape with Lisa Van Allen. People skip around an alleged threesome with the girl in question and the wife, and people wonder why this whole case lacked credibility. This whole case needed all of these people to pile on these statements to corroborate this and corroborate that, and still didn't prove a damn thing in a lot of people's perspective. But I'm going to park it there, like I said. Let's watch this documentary on what a real cult looks like, on the effects that a real cult has, and the fact that if children were being preyed on, there would be concrete evidence of that. There wouldn't be people able to get on these platforms and say, well, 30 years ago this happened, 20 years ago this happened. Go to a grand jury and say he's preying on minors, and then you got a whole roster full of grown-ass motherfucking women up there testifying and lying. Can't make this shit up. And another part, money caps, when it comes to the damn wife, they don't want to, when they talk about the rules and regulations and shit, they don't want to talk about how it was Mama Bear's whole game plan. She set a lot of the rules in motion. A lot of these people, again, they'll skip out that this was a married motherfucking man. So if he had rules to his house and he got a mansion and this and that in his house, he got the right to have rules. He got the right to say, you need to announce yourself or you come in my shit. You damn right you need to let me know what you got going on in this motherfucker. But the icing on the cake, like I said then, this man had security footage. So if you're going to tell me through the transcripts in court that they saw a specific Jane Doe hopping the fence, the media wants to twist that narrative and say, oh, she was trying to escape. Oh, she was trying to get to her uncle's house down the street to get some shoes for a motherfucking party, even though they told us they can't wear nothing but what they say, jogging pants and that goofy ass shit. Like, make their story make sense. It's all over the fucking place. And they think because they did a poor ass coverage of the case, it's supposed to just be that on that. He's guilty, period. The fuck? That don't mean shit. Anyway, like I said, let's get into a real cult. A real cult. Lisa Van Allen might know something about.
Children. They are just two of hundreds of kids who were reported missing by their parents between 1993 and 2001. This footage shows where the kids were found, a 400-acre compound isolated in a rural part of the state of Georgia, where normally no outsider is allowed entrance. The footage shows massive pyramids, a towering sphinx, and strange monuments. Inside, everyone appears happy, waving at the camera. But behind the smiles, these people are hiding a disturbing secret. When the local sheriffs investigated the missing children, they were met at the gate by armed men. While what really went on inside the compound remained a secret for decades, doctors and
Let me pause right there, because you notice they said missing kids. What's up, Chris? How you doing? Everybody else in the chat, what's up? Make sure you hit that thumbs up. Hype me up when this is done. But anyway, you heard what he said. Missing kids. Missing and exploiting kids. So this gonna be a shot to all these fake ass people want to talk about. They talking about this, but what about the Epstein list? What about the sit your goofy ass down? Because when you should have been focusing on the Epstein list, you were too busy trying to dick ride motherfucking R. Kelly. That's what happened with the motherfucking list. That's what happened with the list. Did you hear him say missing kids? Missing kids. So they came out here and fed us these stories that it was some missing kids involved. This man was preying on kids. Remember that?
Georgia started noticing an alarming pattern. Multiple hospitals admitting dozens of children from the compound as young as 11 years old who were pregnant.
You hear that? Undeniable proof that Dr. York was messing with these 11, 12, 13-year-old little girls, getting them pregnant, sending them to the hospital. Proof they had. But they didn't just stop there. You're going to see what they did to catch his motherfucking ass, that you're going to start to review my content to realize the problem I had with these fake ass people trying to infiltrate shit all willy-nilly and skip. Bitch, is the police paying you or something? Because this ain't adding up. You're doing a little bit too much gaslighting on these platforms. It shouldn't take all this shit you're doing on social media if the man is so guilty, when if he was so guilty, it would be evidence. Okay? Now, Dr. York had these 11, 12, 13-year-old pregnant little girls. Pregnant little girls. But it's still people on this bitch to this day talking about he was set up. Is you crazy? You got people in my comments still trying to compare Dr. York to motherfucking R. Kelly. Is you cool? The fuck?
The FBI quickly got involved, planning a raid on the compound to save the hundreds of children living behind the gates. But the FBI was afraid of having a repeat of the attack in Waco, Texas, a cult raid which saw dozens of young children murdered and sparked mass hysteria. The FBI would have no idea what they were up against until one 7-year-old girl escaped the compound before it was too late. She was the only one who could expose the truth.
What's up, EJ? How you doing?
It's 1977 in New York City. 2-year-old Nikki is living with her mother in a small apartment in Queens, New York, a neighborhood riddled with crime and violence.
There was a lot of gangs. There was drugs everywhere. Heavy on crime, heavy on murder, especially on Bushwick Avenue.
Every day, as Nikki's mom leaves for work, she experiences the brutality of the streets of New York. She thinks about little Nikki. This is not the world she wants her to grow up in, but with little money, the single mom doesn't have many options. But one day, everything changes when Nikki's mother is approached by a man in a long white garment. He hands her a book and points at the address printed on the cover. That night, she becomes filled with curiosity and reads the book cover to cover, finally feeling that her prayers and hopes for a better life are being answered. Immediately, she decides that she will visit the man the next day. As she walks down the street, she proceeds with her usual caution, but as she approaches 717 Bushwick Avenue, she feels the air around her begin to change. Slowly, she hears the faint sound of a choir singing. As she walks in, she sees children laughing, playing, and running around freely in beautiful garments. She comes face to face with an entire community, a community who preaches about their struggle while lifting each other up. After this first meeting, a new routine starts for the young mother. She begins attending the gatherings regularly, finally finding a place that feels like home. Slowly, the streets of New York feel safer with the help of this new community, and as the years go by, Nikki's mom starts to change. She finally sees a future for her and her kids, one that is hopeful and full of possibilities. Nikki, now 7 years old, starts to become more and more aware of her mother's faith, and for the first time since her mom's discovery, she tags along to a sermon with her. Nikki's mom watches her daughter as she enters. Seeing her child carefree and surrounded by such peace and joy brings tears to her eyes. Behind this safe community is one man who made it all happen. It's charismatic preacher, Dr. Dwight Malachi York.
He could walk in this room and get along with everybody. He knew how to bring people together, and that was his personality.
The community, known as the Nawabian Nation, had its roots in New York City back in the 1960s. At the time, the city was an even more dangerous place to live, especially for African Americans, who faced daily discrimination and violence in the years following segregation. Racial tensions were high, and the streets of New York were no less forgiving. Muggings, drug deals, and violent crime were a part of everyday life. So for many, the new community offered more than just a spiritual and cultural liberation. It was a safe haven for Black residents in New York and across other cities along the East Coast.
For people of African descent, our history, our culture were literally severed by slavery. So who are we? Here comes Malachi York and says, oh, I have an answer to that.
You are the original man, Asiatic Black.
You hear what's going on? It's similar to what we see now. Black people, let me say it, Black people are so lost with their identity, and I ain't gonna say all, but some are so lost that they will gravitate toward anything that they feel gives them an identity. So with that being said, these people were lost, as he said. This man comes up like a deacon. Oh, I could give you a solution. We could do this, we could do that, right?
And the maker, the owner, Prima family, the father of civilization and God of the universe.
And York says, well, why can't we have our own communities that are consciously planned for people of African descent?
And if you're not Black, you don't belong in this room. All right now. It's a Black thing. That's right.
York was an accomplished speaker who spent decades building this community. He often spoke about fighting for Black Americans and had ties to the Black Panther movement. On the side, he was also a musician, producing his own smooth jazz, funk, and disco records. He was an artist, an activist, and most importantly, the leader of the Nawabian Nation. His message of self-empowerment and strength only grew stronger into the 80s. And that's when, in 1986, Nikki's family takes a big leap of faith. At just 11 years old, Nikki officially moves into the compound in Bushwick, New York. Along with her two younger siblings, she's promised a roof over her head, protection, and the assurance of a better, brighter future.
It was an exchange from the hard knock life of being on the streets to moving into a community that was completely secured and protected by our own people.
But with their new lives come new rules, new customs, and ultimately, a completely new way of life.
My wardrobe changed, how we ate changed. We would study the Quran. We learned Arabic from Arabic teachers.
The spiritual leader is particularly fond of Nikki and her siblings and makes sure they're well fed, properly dressed, and kept entertained. He pays them close attention, greeting them warmly, checking in on their well-being, and ensuring they're included in community activities. For Nikki, the attention feels comforting, special. In a way, she's found a new father figure to look up to, someone both protective and powerful.
A little after I joined the community, my mom became one of his wives. That meant I was one of his children, and I looked up to him. That's my dad.
Dr. Malachi Dwight York is the center of the Nawabian Nation. He is revered as their leader and their savior. He is the provider of safety and hope. By this point, there's over 1,000 members, and their community center in Bushwick is becoming increasingly crowded. It comes to a point where it's clear to York that they've outgrown the city streets, and a new chapter needs to begin.
A physical state.
With our own passports and our own tax system.
I'm talking about our own nation.
Where no one tells us what to do but us.
Dwight York decides to build a new home for his congregation, and it will be over 900 miles away from New York in the rural farmlands of Putnam County, Georgia.
We're driving cross country. You see the rural areas that we were accustomed to seeing. We pulled onto the property and it was just open land. It was amazing.
The property was out in Putnam County in a very rural area, a little over 400 acres. Isolation was very much a factor. They were coming to Georgia. They were going to form their own nation, not subject to the laws of the United States.
Before York starts building in Georgia,
now you hear that goofy ass shit. Do that sound familiar to these people with that sovereign bullshit? How the entire hell you think you're going to sit on U.S. soil talking about you going to build your own shit and go by your own laws and pretty much say that they don't have no jurisdiction over you on their land, technically, in the USA. Now, if you took your motherfucking ass somewhere off of this land and you set up shop, that'd be a different matter. But you see the cycle of the stupidity. And it's just strange how so many lost people will follow individuals like this. They will turn a blind eye to the shit that this person was doing. And then, like I say, people want to be selective with their outrage, selective with their outcries. EJ, I'm still waiting on you to tell me how I had an attitude. Because I don't have no attitude. The only people I have attitudes with is the people playing with me. That's the only people I have attitudes with.
drawing from different cultures, religions, and mythologies from around the world to create a new identity for his community. He makes drastic changes to his appearance in his quest. One moment, taking on a Western persona, donning cowboy hats and boots. Next, he claims to be an extraterrestrial being called Yanun, and even going as far as calling himself Chief Black Thunderbird Eagle while wearing a feather headdress. He moves from one identity to the next until he lands on the perfect one that will define the new Nawabian nation.
Now, I know there's some things I've said in the past can be triggering to some, especially when I made sarcastic remarks about these people playing in your face with this religion. They all holier than thou. But then to sit here and do the jankiest shit ever and get mad because I can just sit here and say it's janky. They can get overly offended because I can just say it's janky without putting no extra bullshit on it. It is. I don't have to make them a focal point to deliver my messages. So another thing that frustrates me is when I could see all of this as a whole and I bring a lot of other information that you could soak in so that you can understand my perception. I don't like when people jump in and try to give their opinions that are surface level. If you're not looking at the entirety of what I'm talking about because you want to focus in on one thing I said that you didn't like, it's not going to change what I said. It's not going to change how I feel. It's not going to change how I perceive information, especially if I was supposed to believe that this man had a cult. Then it went from this man was being engulfed with these pimps and all this stuff. Then you saw all these people out here on these platforms with these pimps or low budget pimps or throwback pimps or retired pimps or whomever the fuck they supposed to be. People engulfed in allegations of trafficking themselves. But we were just supposed to ignore that shit.
Sermon. There, he proclaims the true origin of the Nawabians, that they are, in fact, descendants of ancient Egyptians from a different planet.
See, this that simp ass shit. Y'all don't have to hit the like. Let me pause for a second. Hit the like. You know they be hate report. Come on.
Your followers identity and quickly get to work. They begin building. A massive sphinx head is erected, towering murals are painted, and before several large pyramids begin to take shape. With each new structure, the place transforms into something so bizarre and theatrical, drawing more and more attention from their neighbors and passersby. Dwight and his followers name it Tamaray, Egypt of the West.
If you were coming into Putnam County on Georgia Highway 142, all of a sudden there are pyramids out there in the middle of a cow pasture. It was very unusual.
Have you seen their property out there?
Oh, I've seen it.
What do you think?
I think it's kind of strange.
Though the neighbors are confused by the strange new community, the compound isn't disruptive. The grounds stay tidy. There's no noise. And no trouble. It's strange to look at, yes, but it appears harmless. But the truth is not what it seems, and what's really going on behind these walls is far more disturbing. 2 years after joining the Nuwaubian community, Nikki finally feels settled in her new home. But then, one day, one of York's wives finds Nikki alone on the grounds. She calls her over urgently, leading her to a private room. And that's when the woman tells the young teenager something she never expected.
One of the wives, she had a conversation with me and said, York would be the person that would teach me about sex, and she would help me and talk to me because, you know, these are things that you want to know as a growing woman.
In a state of shock, Nikki doesn't know what to
Now let's just pause right there, because that's another uncomfortable conversation that I explored back then. You got to be oblivious to not recognize there's still some traditions, there's still some cultures and religions that condone this type of shit. They actually do sex rituals and shit like that with these children 13 years old and stuff like that. So when I had to just open my mind to try to understand the thought process, until I came to the realization, this ain't that. They working too hard to make it that. So I want you to see the difference.
do or how to feel. She just listens. Maybe this is normal, and every other young girl in the community gets the same talk from Dwight York as part of his teachings. After all, he is the respected leader, the prophet.
What's up, Queen?
One of the things that he told us is the person who takes your virginity, that's the person that you're always going to be connected to and loyal to.
That's when the 45-year-old York comes in and locks the door behind him, leaving him and Nikki alone in the room. The young teenager looks at the man she calls her father. Something feels wrong. Suddenly, a strong sense of fear washes over her. In that moment, the trust she once had in him shatters.
And he was just like, it's not a big deal. Like, why are you making this a big deal? It wasn't something that I wanted to do, and he just kind of held me down and just did it. I was miserable. I used to write him many letters saying that I hated my life. And, I wish I wasn't born, but there's nothing I could do about it. This is someone who, for all of my life, was our leader, our master teacher. So when you have that ingrained in you, you don't want to leave.
The world she thought she understood, the people she thought she could rely on, all feels different now. Everything has changed, and there's no going back. Nikki stays quiet, trapped by the rules and by the eyes constantly surveying her, making sure she stays loyal and doesn't disrespect the leader by going against his teachings. With no one to turn to, not even her own mother, it feels like there's nowhere else to go.
It completely starts out with gaining their trust.
I'm going to pause right there, because another trigger that the Me Too movement had with a lot of these traumatized women is the fact that a lot of them have dealt with stuff like this within their home. Maybe they told their mother this is going on and nobody believed them. Maybe this was going on in their house and nobody believed them. So now we, the people, are supposed to take on their trauma and believe their distortions because they don't want to look at facts for facts and go with that.
Your parent is telling you that this is God and this is our Savior. So they believed they were supposed to do whatever they needed to do to please him.
Nikki lives in fear, harboring a secret that she tells no one. Everyone in the community acts normally, praising Dwight York, worshiping their leader, not knowing the darkness this man possesses. But as the teenager grows up, something inside her tells her that she's not alone.
I started seeing the patterns of certain things. It started to remind me of how miserable I was when...
Queen B, now you see where I'm going to go with this. Because just imagine my surprise when I'm hearing all this. R. Kelly's on the tape with a minor. Lisa Van Allen said this, and that. I started looking up Lisa Van Allen's original stories. I started looking at all the articles that were put out about Lisa Van Allen. I come across the name Damon Pryor. People leave that shit out in today because, that don't matter. That's just a conspiracy. All that bullshit just started to irritate my soul when it's clear in black and white that people can go look up. So the fact that his motherfucking ass was also in Sparkle video, that's mighty coincidental. But we just gonna push that to the side because he played the body double, right? Did I say that it's like all the extra words people put in between the simple statements I made is what irritated me as well? Yes, I believe Damon Pryor played a body double for R. Kelly's music videos. Yes, I believe images were manipulated in that tape. Yes, I believe Damon Pryor is on footage with some individuals. Don't start mushing together what other people say and do with what I say. Because I leave it at blanket, what I know, what I research, and leave it at that. I'm not adding no extra shit to that. So again, Damon Pryor, he positions himself to take over this cult that was being led by Malachi. According to what people have said, you go look up Damon Pryor, I think his name Dusa Yorka, something like that. I don't know. I posted it before. I'll have to look up the exact name, but Dusa some shit like that. You look that up. His motherfucking ass tried to be the leader, even though Dr. York had a son. He just pretty much jumped right, I guess. But anyways, I'm glad you mentioned that, Queen B. All right, I got you.
And things started happening to me.
Dusa York.
York's power has only grown, unchallenged and out of sight. A part of Nikki knows she needs to escape to save herself and the other children, but the fear of leaving behind everything she knows, everything she has ever had, is strong. Having been herself a victim of Dwight York is one thing, but seeing the same thing happening to younger children is another. In spite of years of manipulation and grooming, Nikki can still see how wrong everything is. Over time, she realizes that she needs to escape, not just for her sake, but for all the other girls who need to be protected.
Being in a space that's supposed to be holy and pure and protected and happy, but we're miserable, times keep getting worse and worse. And I was scared to leave because I'm not going to be protected. I don't know anything on the outside. But some parts of me was like, I'm willing to go to the unknown.
However, her mother doesn't see it that way. For her, the community is what saved her and her kids from the dangers of the world. So when Nikki gathers up the courage to confess her plan, her mom's reaction takes her by surprise. The side she has chosen is not her daughter's, and that's when a campaign of intimidation and pressure begins, led mainly by York, but also by her own mother. Despite the heartache, Nikki tries to stay strong. With no family on the outside to help her, she tracks down a former cult member, now living in Atlanta, who offers her a place to stay while she reaches safety. Meanwhile,
now picture this, because a lot of people failed to realize why they were banking on Azriel in the New York case. Now, you come to the realization, as some people were late to find out, Azriel's mother was pushing her to do this and do that. According to her, out her own mouth, her parents told her to lie about her age, so she was presenting herself as legal age. So even if hypothetically they want to say something did occur before the couple month span in which she turned 18, she's telling us that she lied about her age of deception. So with that being said, why would I, on the outside looking in, say just because he met this girl, that means they had a sexual relationship? Do you have evidence of this? Then they get to come and talk about, well, there's pictures of this and this and this and that. Oh, okay. So again, we're just going to ignore that what we're being presented with as this mother presented her daughter as an adult, persuaded her to entice this man, and years after the fact, now it's going to be used as part of this Mann Act. That's interesting.
York is furious to see one of his daughters trying to leave him. The betrayal is huge, and his pride is on the line. Nikki, by openly rejecting him, has cornered him. That's when York takes an unprecedented decision. In an attempt to save face, Nikki is not leaving him. He is the one kicking her out.
The day I left, I was scared and numb and feel like this is it. If I'm going to die, then at least I made that one thing, that choice of my own, because I didn't have any choices. I had to do what I was told the whole time.
Her mission is clear: expose the disturbing truth about York's cult and save the children still trapped at the compound before it's too late. But unbeknownst to her, the FBI is already on it. For years, the FBI has been quietly building a case against the cult leader ever since they started
Y'all hear that? Did it take the FBI watching some janky ass documentary to be looking? Or was it the fact that little girls were showing up at the fucking hospital pregnant and shit, 11, 12, 13 years old? Could that be the difference? So we just gonna ignore that. The way they set this up, according to their own mouth, they watched this documentary, they were sickened and appalled, and they had to start their investigation. And from there, we just sat here and watched all this shit dogpile, and it's supposed to take away from the corruption at play. That shit crazy.
Receiving the most unusual phone calls from across the country, calls from parents who all had missing children.
We would get calls from a mother or a father. My daughter's down there in a cult. I can't get in touch with her. I don't know what's happened. Can you try to find out from me?
That sound familiar? My daughter's in a cult. I can't get in touch with her. Can you do this? Do that sound familiar? Do it sound familiar when Tiny Tim got on her talking about if you are a parent, call the FBI. Tell them this, and that. Mm-hmm.
But I would go there. There was always an armed guard at the gate. They wouldn't let you on the property. At that time, I didn't know what was going on.
Then, doctors from the surrounding area started sounding the alarm. They were uncovering a horrific pattern. Girls as young as 11 years old were showing up at hospitals pregnant. As they traced their locations, they all came from one place, the Nuwaubian compound. While agents continue their investigation into York, there's growing concern about the potential violence and innocent lives that could be lost if the FBI confronts the community leader directly at the compound.
We had received information over the years that he had a stockpile of weapons. We were concerned about a shootout.
York becomes increasingly aggressive.
Hey, y'all see who that is? Do y'all see who that is? Hold up. Hold up. Y'all see who that is? I can't make this shit the fuck up. Reverend Al Sharpton over there with old York. Mm-hmm. And the feds watching. Mm-hmm. What's up, Miss Lady T?
Aggressive and reckless, appointing armed guards to guard the gate, while the locals of Putnam County become even more wary of their strange neighbors as things escalate.
When I went by there one morning, they're marching around with guns, and I just don't think that's the thing to happen.
When you're met with armed individuals who claim that they're not subject to your laws, armed conflict is usually instantaneous.
We're going after the leader of a cult. How are we going to do this? How do you infiltrate a cult?
It's clear
that is very interesting that she said that. How do you infiltrate a cult? How do you infiltrate a cult and then birth all of these books? They got all these other people writing their books.
That something sinister is happening at the compound, but with no witnesses willing to talk about it, authorities are left in a tough spot. Both the FBI and law enforcement in Georgia don't want to have a repeat of Waco.
We have what appears to be a fire going on right now, raging at the Branch Davidian compound.
In 1993, in Waco, Texas, just 1 year before the investigation on the Nuwaubian Nation leader Dwight York began, a 51-day standoff between the FBI and a religious group called the Branch Davidians ended in a deadly fire, resulting in 76 deaths, including 25 children. What began as an attempt to serve a search and arrest warrant escalated into one of the most tragic events in U.S. history. The aftermath sparked outrage in the media, with witnesses and survivors criticizing the government's handling of the situation. Now faced with the same fear, authorities are deeply concerned about how to handle their investigation on York. For nearly a decade, they did everything to build a strong case against the leader, but what they really needed was a real victim statement, someone on the inside who knew what was going on to expose the truth. And that's when Nikki, the girl who had just escaped, decides to come forward.
He took advantage of our work, our bodies, our minds. He had us fooled. He doesn't get to have the last say in that.
Finally, with the survivor on the record, authorities have enough evidence to make their move. On the morning of May 8, 2002, Sheriff Sills and an army of over 200 deputies, U.S. Marshals, and FBI tactical agents get ready to bring in Dwight York. The difficult part is that they need to prevent York from rallying his followers to violently resist the police upon entry. If this goes wrong, it could quickly turn deadly, and they know a lot of children are on the premises. That's when Sheriff Sills comes up with a plan. The first step will be closely tracking Dwight York, patiently waiting for him to leave the compound before the raid.
The FBI had him under surveillance on the ground and by air support.
Hours pass. The authorities wait in silence, in fear of what comes next. Finally, the gates of Tamaray open. They spot a sleek, black car leaving. The FBI agents start following it, doing their best not to get spotted.
We learned from radio communication that his vehicle had.
Y'all heard this shit just making me every time I hear this shit, I just start back thinking, and now I can just reimagine. You remember when Azriel Clary mama, they was out there at the studio throwing rocks and knocking on the door. Azriel doing all that goofy shit, knowing damn well Azriel wasn't in that motherfucking studio. They doing all that shit right there. And like I said, if there was a real threat and they knew good and goddamn well, like I said, they presenting to the public, he preying on these kids. They dealing with adults who have the free will to do what they want. So now they got to take it upon themselves to keep trying to capture these Kodak moments. That shit crazy.
Had pulled into a parking lot of a grocery store. The SWAT team was there and the arrest teams. Our job was to make sure we could identify him.
FBI agents hold their breath, waiting for the car door to open. As they wait hidden in the parking lot, hoping Dwight York has been the man in the vehicle this whole time, one miscalculation could risk the entire operation. If it's not York, they can't risk the leader discovering that they're coming for him while still protected at the compound. Then, the car door swings open. A man exits from the back seat. The surveillance team confirms it. It's Dwight York walking out.
I ain't gonna lie, I seen he did a speech for Jesse Jackson, and that's kind of what inspired me to think about this impromptu live when I seen him pop out looking like a crypt keeper. Like, hell to the no. Never mind. I'm keeping my thoughts to myself.
Out of the car. Now is the time to strike. The agents make their move just as planned. With meticulous coordination, they quickly move out of unmarked vehicles, approaching York, who, surrounded by a swarm of armed agents, finally has nowhere left to run, and the team makes an arrest. Now, it's Sheriff Sill's turn to complete his mission. He swiftly leads a convoy with dozens of local and federal officers into the gates of Tamaray, but not without caution. Hundreds of innocent children and their families live on the grounds. Despite anticipation of resistance and retaliation, they enter without force through the main gates.
As the deputies swarmed in, we created a big perimeter.
The raid was a show of force involving hundreds of local and federal officers.
After years of fear, secrecy, and abuse, Tamaray finally comes to a quiet end. The operation is successful and without any violence.
I remember thinking, you know what? We are going to prove this case. We are going to get some closure for so many victims.
Now, with York in custody and the Nuwaubian compound disbanded, Putnam County law enforcement continues building their legal case against York with the FBI. For nearly 2 years, they gather more witnesses, expert testimonies, and countless pieces of evidence.
York absolutely did not want to go to trial because all his secrets would come out.
At the beginning of January 2004, Dwight York's trial begins. He faces charges for several counts of child abuse, rape, racketeering, conspiracy, and tax fraud. While York sits in the courtroom finally facing accountability for his horrific crimes, the survivors sit together, hand in hand. Among the survivors is Nikki. She looks at York. He is no longer the self-proclaimed god and prophet she once knew. To her, he just looks like a regular old man, his hair turning gray and his body appearing frail in an orange prison jumpsuit.
I hadn't seen him in 3 years.
His supporters all on her. Oh, he just pled guilty because you don't know what they did. They was extorting him and this, and that. R. Kelly been extorted, from my opinion. Been trying, that's been the game plan. So he still didn't plead no damn guilty. What you mean? It's not adding up.
And actually it was kind of liberating because I felt like he can't tell me anything. He can't make me do anything. That was the first time of me getting my power back.
Nikki stands with her head high, nervous, but with strength. She walks toward the witness stand to testify against the man who once had so much power over her.
One witness would lead to the next in terms of identifying victims. And in the end, we identified and interviewed at least 40 victims.
Did y'all hear what she said? One victim led to the next. One victim led to the next. So if I've shown you throughout these years how one victim led to the next, and people act oblivious to how I put this shit together and just sit back and just be looking in utter amazement at how crazy it all looks. The name of the song, T is Brown, is called Free the King. It's exactly what it's called, Free the King. But yeah, they brought out all these people, paraded them around, did all this extra shit, then want to go into court talking about some Jane Does, like we can't read the goddamn paperwork, read the allegation, hear what they said out here, compare the two, put two and two together, and say something ain't adding up. Then when you get to the transcripts and people that's hired to do a job sitting out here dragging their feet, talking about this, all these excuses, but is linked up with the man who was acquitted of his obstruction and should have all the information to unravel so much, like just on demand. Just on demand. You should just have that. I don't get this. Something ain't adding up. It ain't adding up.
After 3 weeks of testimony, on January 23, 2004, Dwight York is found guilty on 11 of the 13 counts and sentenced to the maximum penalty. Among the litany of state and federal charges against him, York pleads guilty to 74 counts of child molestation, the interstate transportation of minors for criminal sexual activity, conspiracy, and racketeering.
York is currently serving a 135-year federal prison sentence on lockdown for 23 hours a day. He has exhausted all of his appeals, and that's where he will remain. Justice had been served for these victims.
I heard that. This man got 100+ years. 100+. Anyways, I'm gonna go for that one. And I'm gonna just pick. Yeah, that's why I was showing it, because like I was saying, when I heard Colt and when I first started researching this stuff, I was thinking, okay, this is what I'm gonna get. They said sex slaves, holding hostages, preying on little girls, da-da-da-da-da. I'm like, okay. So then when I started typing in the main voice, Lisa Van Allen, and it goes to Damon Pryor, and then I also see the Damon Pryor over here affiliated with these Nubians. Then I get down this rabbit hole with Dr. York. You see how this shit go? This shit was deep as fuck. It's just so many damn layers. But then the first set, I'm just trying to stick to the Lisa Van Allen and Damon Pryor and how that connected to them weird ass people. So from my point of view, that's what I anticipated seeing when they said Colt. Shit. What the fuck? So when I seen they little fake ass rescue mission on Surviving R. Kelly, man, you got to be fucking kidding me. You got to be fucking kidding me. You got this motherfucker down here throwing these damn rocks at a window of an empty fucking studio. You got them out here, and then they get to beefing because the Savages got mad because Dominique went home, and all that shit was funny as fuck. And people couldn't capitalize on those moments. Like, all this shit was funny. These people came together with this common interest to take R. Kelly down. They beefing amongst each other, coming out here talking about this, talking about that person. Like I said, showing each so-called victim. Yeah. Anywho, back to Pryor. Let me think. So this the video I did when I first started putting it out there about Damon Pryor. And it was titled R. Kelly's accuser Lisa Van Allen ties with baby daddy Damon Pryor.
Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. Go ahead, hit the like, hit the share. This video, we're going to talk about Lisa Van Allen and her shady baby daddy. Because it's so funny that when this whole scandal broke out, you had individuals coming out with stories saying that R. Kelly has a sex cult. R. Kelly is holding hostages.
Now, ain't that what I just said? Didn't I just tell y'all up front, being completely transparent, what got me interested in doing my own research about the subject matter, and why I can now go back and reference my own work to show you why I think the way I think when I see all this shit playing out on these platforms.
But before I get on that, let me just comment on this. It's funny, every time I drop a video, you got these little peons coming out the woodworks trying to stir up some trouble. Now, those that have been following me, and even those new to my channel, you can rest assured with the fact that I don't delete nothing, and I don't change my position on anything I've said. With that being said, for all you little trolls out here trying to create this false narrative, this is all I'm going to say. Now, let's get back to the topic.
They took my gift and they blind me. Where in the fuck is my money? Now here come this big ass conspiracy. I still got my fans, that's a blessing. Listen to heaven, just stay on my grind and it's 24/7. And I know my mama Joanne is smiling down on me. I put that on reverend. Been a grown man since age 11. Lied on the guap since 7. Rest in peace to my homie Kevin. Ain't it lying that I'm a freak? Used to go to strip clubs every week. But who these niggas trying to say I am? Man, I'm not, and I put that on G. I admit I fuck with all the ladies. That's both older and young ladies. But tell me how they call it pedophile because of that shit. That's crazy. You may have your opinions, entitled to your opinions. But really, am I supposed to go to jail or lose my career because of your opinion? I admitted how ever since the first day that without knowing I signed my publishing away. Say I'm abusing these women. What the fuck, that's some absurd shit. The brainwashed, really? Kidnapped, really? Can't eat, really? Real talk, that shit sounds silly.
We were in the car when we heard the verdict and we had to pull over. I was a little surprised at how quickly they came to the verdict. But I guess I can't say that I was surprised that they, gave him not guilty because usually guys with his money, they don't, they usually get a slap on the wrist anyway. So I wasn't surprised.
Now, just when you thought this case against R. Kelly couldn't get any weirder, the plot definitely thickens. Unfortunately, if Lifetime had taken a little time to really check into the characters they presented before the general public, more interesting facts would have been available. especially when it comes to their star actress, Lisa Van Allen. Lisa Van Allen likes to leave out significant details when discussing her experience with R. Kelly. Details like the fact that her baby daddy appears in music videos with R. Kelly. According to Lisa Van Allen, she met R. Kelly on the set of his music video for Home Alone. She leaves out Damon Pryor was also on the set, so it wouldn't be far-fetched to think, considering how unreliable she is, that she really could have met Damon Pryor first. She wants the public to believe she was 17 at the time, when in fact she was really 18, as the video took place in '98. Damon Pryor also appeared in Be Careful, a video by Sparkle, in 1998. Sparkle and R. Kelly eventually fell out, and like others, was used to create the false narrative that it was her niece in the sex tape. According to articles from the first trial, Damon Pryor was supposed to be a surprise witness to discredit Van Allen. However, his testimony was not really needed after the defense for Kelly made his case in showing her true character. And again, you can go on my site, www.primadonnaproductionsllc, to get a close look at these receipts that I've compiled. And also you will see things like,
I changed the website, by the way. It's www.freerkelly.info. Again, www.freerkelly.info. That's the same website that I'm looking on as I'm doing this screenshot, which was in 2020. Ain't nothing changed. Everything's the same, and I stand on it.
this, the video that discusses everything that I'm referring to. This video came straight from the news that was detailing how the defense had their surprise witness and had to interview him.
Well, court proceedings in the R. Kelly trial called off early today as Kelly's defense team claimed that they may be able to discredit a witness that was on the stand for the prosecution. SEAL TV's Randy Bellosomo joining us now from 26 in California with more on that. Hi, Randy.
Hi, Sean. It happened during the lunch break, and it took everyone by surprise. The defense said they have a witness they need to interview, but they can't do that until later tonight. After all had cleared courtroom 500 for the midday recess, Kelly's defense...
See, his previous defense, they wasn't playing. That's why I said, I know for a fact there was plenty of people they could have put on that damn stand to formulate a damn defense than going in there with the lack of defense and trying to make mediocre points that's not going to change the perception being painted to the jury.
Defense team threw a curveball at Judge Vincent Gahn. They claimed to be able to produce a witness who could discredit the testimony that was expected later in the day from an Atlanta woman who said she engaged in a three-way sexual encounter with both the defendant and the alleged victim in the case. Though the defense has fought her appearance for weeks now, all seemed clear for her to take the stand until this 11th hour move. In earlier testimony, the court heard from two basketball coaches. Joel Ray headed up the team from Oak Park's Percy Julian Middle School between 1994 and 2003. He coached two of the alleged victims' friends, and the squad squared off against her rivaling team.
And it's funny that with all the people they used as a witness, they get a male basketball coach. How would that male basketball coach be able to tell you what this girl looks like naked? They couldn't find any other female that would be able to testify. Furthermore, they showed this child pornography to this male. But as Pryor stated to the defense attorneys, he told him that the alleged R. Kelly sex tape was actually created by two gentlemen from Kansas City named Chuck and Keith.
But wait, they act like I just made that shit up. And then when you seen Charles Freeman and Keith Muriel on the damn stand in Chicago, I guess I made that shit up too. I guess I just made up why I believe the tape was tampered with and why a forensic specialist or somebody should have motherfucking authenticated it. Because once they coerce the witness to get on the stand, they don't even necessarily need the tape no more, that you got the person on there saying it's me. Duh. But what do I know? I'm just a blogger.
Now, if you recall, in a Vlad interview with Lisa Van Allen, she mentions that she gave this tape to a man named Keith. But quite strangely, in her testimony on the stand, she stated she never said that. So it seems like to me, they gave this lady immunity to get on the stand and perjure herself. I wonder what the statute of limitation is on perjury. Van Allen, like all others, is a woman scorned. She used the position, enjoyed the lifestyle, and then took part in an extortion scheme. The attorney, Sam Adams Jr., stipulates that his surprise witness is a con man, referring to Pryor. As he cross-examined Van Allen, who did finally take the stand, Adam asked if she's aware of Pryor's many aliases, such as Omar Reeves, Michael Russell, Basal Muhammad, and Jamil Carolina, a handle that Pryor perhaps conjured with the help of the Ron Mexico name generator. He also inquires if Van Allen knew that Pryor had two social security numbers, that he had been convicted of federal bank fraud, and that he had previously pulled the surprise witness stunt in a case that sounds even weirder than this one.
Ha! I guess I also made up that he was also involved in Dr. York's case. So to sit up here and turn around and take over as the leader, that shit crazy as hell. But why is it all these people that the government sends to let go under the radar got all these crimes under their belt? All these people that they say were doing this and doing that were tied to certain crimes. Got even the so-called witnesses, accusers, incriminating themselves in crimes. But it's cool because we just want this person. Okay. And they
that of a black nationalist cult leader known as the Green One and or Imperial Grand.
Hold on, you said 5 years. Let's see. When was the Chicago case? 2023, 2020. Yeah, they still got time. They still got time on this. Yeah, they got time. They got time. Especially when you got old Yanti out here talking about that's a fucking lie. They need to run this shit back.
Potent noble Dr. Malachi Z. York, who was convicted of child molestation, trafficking, and a RICO charge. What's quite interesting about this is this cult that Damon Pryor has began or took part in, and also made a deposition in the case of, is strangely mimicked after this movie by the name of The Indictment. And the case against R. Kelly is strangely charge by charge, almost identical to the charges against this Dr. York. So according to this information, this wasn't the first case in which Pryor was listed as a surprise witness. In 2002, he was deeply involved in the case that accused cult leader Dr.
2002. Keep a mental note. 2002. He was deeply involved with this York shit. Deeply involved. And now you got R. Kelly over here with this tape. And then, if you also recall, go back and look it up. Lisa Van Allen expect us to believe that after authorities were presented with this so-called CP, he reached out to her to see if she could get the tape back years after that, even though he already being prosecuted. Does that make any fucking sense? If he being charged in 2002, do you think it is very likely in 2004, 5, or 6 even, he gonna be trying to obtain some tapes? Or do it sound more likely that people were still on their bullshit? That's what it sound like to me.
Dr. York. And I want you to watch this video because I want you to see how that case and this case against R. Kelly is eerily similar.
But have them sentenced under a more severe sentencing guideline.
I didn't really understand the structure charges, and I believe that I expressed that to the attorney, the U.S. attorney, and I also expressed that to FBI Jelaine, that I didn't really understand the structure charges. And they explained to me that anytime you try to avoid filing that report, then that's a charge. That's a serious charge. And like I stated previously, and I believe I stated this on my testimony on the stand, that Malachi never told us not to file those reports. He never told us to deny any of the tellers any information. If we did deposit over $10,000 and if we were investigated, he never told us not to follow through with us. He never told us not to talk to anyone about it. So...
And the girl, they would talk about it too. They would talk about how they were sleeping with Jacob. I mean, they would argue about it sometimes, how one would be upset that she was sleeping with Jacob, but they all continued, even though they said about it. They were all sleeping with Jacob. So that's another reason. That's another way he got them, to go along with it, because he's a very manipulative person. He can convince people to say things. He can kind of he can bring it out of people, and especially these girls, because the way we grew up just, we were kind of sheltered, because we grew up kind of a sheltered life, like any girls would grow up, their fathers had them sheltered, and he kind of played off of their naiveness for certain situations. And he can convince them to do things and say things. He was very good. He was very conniving, and manipulative person.
A lot of the young female
Now pause right there. You see Damon Pryor right there, but we're gonna pause right there because maybe early on, maybe I offended people because I would blatantly say things like, some of these R. Kelly supporters are giving me York vibes because goddamn it, you telling me that you think it's him on the tape. You wanna bypass that shit, but still sit out here and gaslight people with the free R. Kelly. You wonder why I'm looking at y'all like y'all got to be crazy than a motherfucker if you think this man guilty and you're gonna still sit out here with this bullshit. And it's kind of similar to these motherfucking Nubians who want to say that the government set up Dr. York type shit. Like this, the shit that they probably still to this day saying that there was a whole conspiracy to take down York because of all of his knowledge, according to them.
Were very naive to the world that New York was introducing to. They did not have any idea what it was to go out and party and have access to concerts, have access to money and clothing and cars, and be involved in an explicit, sexually free lifestyle. A lot of them had no idea that that was the trap. Meaning offering them those things and saying that this is what, by giving them the glimpse of it.
Now, in some of them images, don't he look even the same right there? If you squint, you know that shit. The pictures. Come on now. There was so much. You a little suspect, bro. You a little suspect. Little suspect.
South Beach trip, it allowed them to say, "Oh, this is what life is like. This is what it's going to be like once we bring down or get money from Dr. York and sue them for millions of dollars, and we get book deals and go across telling these alleged stories." A lot of them didn't know what they were getting into. They had no idea that the federal government would trap them and put them in a position where they couldn't recant their stories. I mean, these are young girls who, mind you, they haven't experienced a lot of things in life. In the devil's society, they experience many things in our community.
So is it far-fetched to believe that once these people put these public stories out here, they were put in a position to where they can't retract their statements? So now you got to remember that shit to the best of your abilities. And when you get your ass on that stand and you can't remember the script, you're going to say, "I don't recall," like Woody, huh? Is that pretty much how it went? And we supposed to take that as the absolute truth. Yeah, okay.
Dr. York tried to create an environment where young people would enjoy themselves in a positive fashion. But Jacob York used his influence to take them into that world and thus weaken these young people and had them say, "Okay, we'll go along with the story." They were just ready for anything, not knowing what they were getting into. So the South Beach trip was basically a trap for all of them.
Because we thought it was the right thing to do. So he told us it was the right thing to do. He is a real.
That didn't sound like a positive statement on behalf of Dr. York to be saying and then come out and take over his little cult. He pretty much just said he was essentially trapping motherfuckers. That's what I got out of it.
So, if you can't tell, seems like the same scenario. And you can see that Damon Pryor is, in a sense, trying to cover for this man. Isn't it ironic that this Pryor guy was also in that cult helping them defraud by creating these businesses and creating liens against certain things?
And truth be told, I think, just being honest, that is the catalyst behind a lot of this shit. Even with Dr. York and even with R. Kelly. It was a lot of fraudulent, janky ass shit going on. You got this man owing the IRS amongst other shit. I believe that was more so the catalyst as it always is, because the government wants their money.
And as I pointed out a while ago, from our
plus, we know damn well R. Kelly wasn't setting up all those companies and shell companies and whatever else they had going on.
Kelly situation, there's been these liens taken out on his background since the 90s. If you want to watch the whole video, in which it's people that have been trying to expose Damon Pryor for a while now. So I'll put that link in the description so you can see all about his character. Why is the defense trashing its own guy? In the hope that some of that trash sticks to Van Allen, who's shaping up to be the state's star witness. Under direct examination, Van Allen, wearing a low-cut for criminal court black baby doll dress that billows over her 4 months pregnant belly, says she met R. Kelly in 97 or 98 when she was 17. So, of course, they put the two different years.
The fact that they put that in the description, that's funny as hell. This motherfucker said she was wearing a low cut for criminal court black baby doll dress. Did they really had to put that in there like that?
But again, if you go look up when the video came out, it was 98. According to Van Allen, Kelly's...
That's another thing. They can't even give you a precise date on the damn tape, even though some of us may recall in the images that were put out here, there was a date on there. And from the date that I seen, it looked like 98 to me. But everybody want to keep going back and forth about the dumb shit. I'm not. Then you got them having this window of it's between this date and it. Like, when was the damn tape? Why can't you specifically say she was this age instead of 1 minute, 12 or 13, then years later she's 14? Then come on now, you have to make it make sense.
Cousin Blackie sidled over and said that the singer wanted to meet her, and a few moments later they were having sex in his trailer. Within the year, Van Allen had found gainful employment as the woman who simulates intercourse with Kelly during his stage show.
So they said gained employment. Gained employment. So again, who am I to say that this man had to have sexual relationships with anybody that was affiliated with him? How do I know they weren't facilitating a specific job? Some people said that some of the girlfriends were assistants, etc., etc. Not my battle to fight. But nonetheless, it appeared to me that was another issue. If a lot of people want to speak on the topic, people to take on these jobs and these roles that they weren't qualified to handle. So that's kind of how you get stuck in bad business situations.
So, according to Van Allen, from meeting R. Kelly on the set, she ends up facilitating a job in which she is a woman who simulates sex on R. Kelly's stage shows. It would appear to some the real reason the defense decided against calling Pryor to the stand was because he would have been an even worse witness that would do more damage than good. Apparently, Pryor was engaging with a cult led by convicted child molester Dr. Malachi York that calls themselves Nuwapians. Pryor has been accused of falsifying documents to present himself.
Didn't I tell y'all that? But did I make this shit up?
As the son of York and changed his name to Dusa York. On the site, you can see all the photos that I have collected, including the fake Liberian birth certificate Pryor came up with, again, to present himself as this cult leader's son. According to this, he's the ambassador of the Nuwapian cult. So Pryor gave a deposition in the case against York, in which York was sentenced to 123 years for not only child molestation, but a RICO charge. Pryor would like the general public to continue following this cult, considering he and others have tried to cover up the fact that the leader was convicted of child molestation, among other charges, and is allegedly still recruiting for the cults.
Still recruiting for the cult. So if we could just let motherfuckers out here doing this janky shit, and then they keep getting caught up in the bullshit, then they could say, oh, R. Kelly made me do it. That shit cool for a RICO?
And then we have old Farrakhan again. And it's strange that he would declare this Malachi York as a Messiah.
They heard his brilliant black brother. They saw him building a compound, a small nation here in Georgia. He's Messiah. Trumped up charges. Break up his movement. Put brother in jail. Bring him into court. Fine. If you can't find a way to comfort God, find a way to kill him. Find a way to kill him.
Now, as I stated, if it were left up to them, they would have you to believe that Dr. Malachi York was wrongfully convicted. They have put out the narrative that he didn't plead guilty to child molestation, but I'll get to that in a second. Back to Van Allen. According to her, she says she recognized the girl on the tape because of her breasts back then. She felt that they were much bigger than hers. What's interesting about that is family members of the alleged victim all refute the statements Van Allen made, stating the girl in question had smaller breasts, and she was also on tour in between the US and Europe, in which the group members shared a room.
I guess that was a lie they told back then, huh? Because they came back and wanted to have us believe that because the man was paying the girl daddy for his job that he was doing, that should equate to payoffs. Because they were taking trips and doing whatever they was doing, that was R. Kelly paying off her parents. That's what we supposed to believe now.
Images from the alleged sex tape. And again, how they conveniently leave out the fact that the girl's family, along with the girl, denied that she was on the tape. What's also interesting is they keep changing the age of this victim. During the trial, she was said to have been 13. Now they're saying she was 14. Some may say that's a minor detail, but that makes a difference. Considering they're saying that during a specific time frame, she had a certain hairstyle. But let's go on to testimony from that trial in which witnesses identify those on the sex tape.
During testimony today in the child pornography trial of singer R. Kelly, witness after witness identified those on that now infamous sex tape as the alleged victim and R. Kelly. CLTV's Randy Bellasoma was in the courtroom today, joins us now from 26 in California with more. Randy?
Sean, today, for the first time, we heard testimony that identified those on the tape from someone other than a relative, a friend, or a parent of a friend of the alleged victim. We heard from a former employee of R. Kelly who said at first she did not want to believe that it was him. Lindsay Perryman worked for Robert Kelly on and off from 1999 to 2006, doing everything from cleaning floors to handling the defendant's personal business. She told the court that included driving the alleged victim in the now infamous sex tape to and from his Olympia Fields home. She also testified to...
How crazy do you think this looked to put her and her twin sister on Surviving R. Kelly, had him out here on social media? People skip around how they was always in the midst of some bullshit, but then get offended that I personally feel the same way I feel about Tasha K. When you put out certain information, when you have people on your platform, you share the liability, the accountability in what is being subjected to the people. So with that being said, if you are aware that individuals do this and do that, and you co-sign them, to me, you look just as guilty. And I don't have to directly call out specific names to state those facts. So it would trigger people when they would run to people like this who gave me immediately no vibes from the beginning. But yet I heard them out. I listened to them. I watched them send off some people to come against me on some stupid shit. But that's neither here nor there, because at the end of the day, can't just trust everybody that ran around her saying free R. Kelly when they showed you exactly who they were.
Often seeing the girl at Kelly's recording studio, sometimes carrying a pillow and an overnight bag. The image that I saw looks exactly like Mr. Kelly, Perryman said, then IDing the female on the tape, citing her facial features and her cheekbones. During cross-examination, defense attorney Mark Martin inquired about Perryman's purported master's degree from a recording conservatory in Arizona, a degree she said took only months to acquire. I didn't go to Oxford or Harvard, no, Perryman replied. Also taking the stand was Jada Burnett, a family friend of the alleged victim. She said the female on the tape was about 12 or 13 at the time and noted her distinctive cheeks and facial structure. However, that's as far as she could go. Here's an exchange during cross-examination by defense attorney Sam Adam Jr. At some point, you'd have had to have seen her naked. You were so close, right? I've never seen her naked. 22-year-old Raven Gangler testified as well, saying the girl on the tape was her friend from junior high. She said that was something that was absolute, and said the alleged victim was very proud of her relationship with R. Kelly.
It's just crazy to me how they was just showing this tape to everybody. Everybody get to see the tape. Everybody get to see the tape. And wonder why she feels like what she said, that situation definitely could have been handled better especially when we see how they will act upon real cult allegations, really targeting kids type of allegations versus grown ass women having their free will to do what they want to do.
R. Kelly sat expressionless through most of the day's proceedings, and occasionally he would whisper something to attorney Eddie Timpson. If convicted, he could face up to 15 years in prison. Reporting from 26th in California, Randy Bellasomo, CLTV News. Sean, back to you.
Randy, thank you very much.
Strange, they're just showing this tape around to all these different people.
Damn, I be saying the same shit.
And like I've said before, people want to rant and rave about holding people accountable. Just keep that same energy towards everybody. According to this article, because what some people keep overlooking is that the same person that has been following this story for 20 years and planting all these narratives on all these media sites and even appearing in the second Surviving R. Kelly.
Who was that said they had a dream about Jimmy Derogatis? Let's get to him.
Jim Derogatis refused to testify. He invoked his Fifth Amendment. So without the chance to grill Derogatis about his involvement, Kelly's attorney opened their defense with 3 relatives who testified they didn't recognize either participant in the video.
So ain't that a bitch? This Porky the Pig ass motherfucker. He invoked his Fifth Amendment back then, and they let him invoke his Fifth Amendment this go round too. And they gonna skip his motherfucking ass thinking we gonna believe he just came across this tape, looked at it, said, damn, that gotta be Sparkle niece. Let me call her and let her see this. Yep. They just think we just gonna believe any fucking thing. Some do, not us.
Their statements countered a parade of prosecution witnesses called to identify the two as Kelly and his godchild. It definitely wasn't her on the tape, Shona Edwards testified Wednesday. Edwards also testified that
So the sister lied too? Did Shona lie back then when she said it wasn't her either? I want to ask her.
she shared hotel rooms with the alleged victim when their Christian pop group toured the United States and Europe between 1998 and 2007. When her relative was a teen, she had much smaller breasts than the video's well-endowed female participant.
I thought Lisa Van Allen, weird ass, talking about she looking at the little girl breasts and they were bigger than hers. Maybe she just got a flat ass chest then. I don't know. That's weird anyway.
Edwards said. Maybe, that is because that well-endowed participant is not the alleged victim. It's true that R. Kelly may have had a sex tape, but they would be no different than any other male who has had sex tapes. They have only tried to spin the narrative in an effort to extort this man, and it should be clear. Many people don't know just how much Carrie Kelly looked like R. Kelly back then. And for him to keep saying now that R. Kelly's attorneys then tried to accuse him of being on the tape and tell him to take the blame. That's bullshit. I have not found one source with that information on it. Not one. And Carrie Kelly did appear at the trial. I think, if you ask me, the reason why Carrie Kelly volunteered that information is because he was on the sex tape. To sit on national TV and say that you mistakenly took a tape that you thought was a movie. Never mind, there's all these video stores and other ways you could access this movie than to steal a VHS tape. That just shows even more your character and why you would steal a fucking VHS tape. Something so petty. Was it his tape from the beginning? According to this article, they would say that Van Allen made herself cry on the stand, admitted that she stole R. Kelly's $20,000 diamond-encrusted Rolex. Considering her testimony, it's obvious that she conspired to extort money from the singer, and she was offered to change her testimony for cash.
See, now we get into the root. Like I said a while ago, if this man had already been charged in 2002, you think we gonna believe that in 2004, 5, or 6, I can't remember the year, god damn it, I'm gonna go back and look, it's on the Vlad interview. You think we gonna believe after he been charged, he gonna hit your ass up and try to buy back a tape that he already being prosecuted for? So now we get into the elephant in the room. It's being alleged that you were being solicited to take a payoff to change your testimony. Well, the way your shit set up, I believe you were motherfucking trying to extort him to get a payout to change your fucking testimony. That's what I think. Yeah, that's what I think.
They also wanted to point out the fact that clearly Van Allen has a thing for men who have been convicted of federal bank fraud. As not only Pryor has this same type of record, so did her fiance, Yul Brown.
Okay, yeah, I think, yeah. So I did a video specifically on that because after that, I thought about this a little more. When I said what I said a while ago, I just said that just to say that, because how you gonna sit here and say that he said that? Even if somebody else came to you, see, that's what I be saying about when things go on, and let's say somebody went and got in Carrie ear and was like, hey, your brother really, you could take the charge for it, something stupid. And then he thinking it's coming from his brother when really it's another motherfucker trying to put that in his head. And now he feels some type of way. And that's why I feel like a lot of people feel some type of way about R. Kelly is because the people around him was doing some janky shit, kind of similar to these people who would, on one hand, they want you to feed them information, tell them this, break this down, come read the paperwork, do all this, and then you gonna look up and see them disrespecting you, doing the most and all that other stupid ass shit, and then you gonna be looking like, damn, what the fuck? You be ready to say, man, fuck R. Kelly, this shit's stupid as hell. But like I said, what I do ain't for nobody but for what I started this for. And had anybody had tried to give the balance that I want to create, maybe I wouldn't have continued to keep this shit going, as Larry Snitch 9 McGee said. His stupid ass.
Who during the interview states he made sure that Lisa Van Allen was not on the sex tape. Wouldn't that imply that this tape was then edited? So that would mean it's not original. So how can that be admissible in court if they don't even have an original tape?
See what I'm saying? Even back then, if from the beginning you don't have original evidence and you going off of what you have obtained through whomever the source, and then all these years later, you got a janky ass creepy porn lawyer by the name of Michael Avenatti coming in talking about I got 3 tapes. He over here trying to extort this person, extort that person, and he go to jail for that shit. But everybody want to turn a blind eye for his role with R. Kelly. And he was representing the likes of people like motherfucking Lisa Van Allen. And I believe he was representing either Keith or Chuck, one of them too. Hell. Don't hold me to it, but that's what I think. Because he was representing 3 to 4 people in the beginning.
How even now can this be admissible evidence if they go from it being a VHS tape to a DVD to a USB? It's too much going on with this so-called evidence, might I say. According to Van Allen's testimony then, in 2002, she denies that she ever said anything about Chuck and Keith in Kansas City making the sex tape at issue in this trial.
So then she tried to be smart when she got on Surviving R. Kelly, and she didn't go all into detail about the Keith and Chuck shit. But again, like I said, if you start looking up her name, you would start to come across some of this shit that she said in the first trial. So it shouldn't have been no surprise to the people who seen the screenshots and or seen images of this in screenshots, collages, whatever, and not realize that instead of worrying about what I think, you can go and put the information out as it was then and give your opinion as to what's going on with the flip of the story now. Duh.
The Chuck and Keith theory might sound completely insane, except for the fact that Van Allen admits that she went to Kelly just last year with an offer to help him recover a different sex tape.
Oh shit. Oh shit. Hold up. I fucked up. That got me excited because I forgot this part. I forgot this part, y'all. I forgot this part. So, she come back and with an offer. She said, what she say on Vlad when he was like extortion? No, and not if he offered. You offered, motherfucker. You offered to get a second tape. So when they said that, okay.
Offer to help him recover a different sex tape. So, years after the fact, she wants to pop back up and offer to help him get back a different sex tape. When this whole scandal...
Damn it, I ain't mean to do that. But again, if she say she only took one tape, where would this other tape come from? Where would this other tape come from? Another tape pops up. It gets to Jim Dergatis. Other reporters are saying that Chuck and Keith are trying to set up press conferences to put out these tapes. 20, 30 years later, 25 years later, they got 3-4 tapes. Gloria already got 1 tape. But it does it add up to you? Like, if we're fed the story, he's taping all of these people. Why is it only specific tapes that are available? And the specific tape in question at that time was RL. and we supposed to believe it's all these variations of her that excluded Lisa Van Allen. She said also that when she looked through the tapes, she recognized some people on the tape. I wonder who that was.
Myrtle eventually came to Chicago with the tape, she says, and they watched it in a hotel room with a handful of Robert's people. The singer's accountant then gave Van Allen and Kansas City Keith $20,000 apiece. The tape has never been seen again. And
now, if this were true, and they got paid $20,000, and I could have sworn that ain't what the fuck she said on Vlad either. That's what I said. These motherfuckers just be lying. I could swear that ain't what she said on there. But this say 20,000. She was giving 20,000. Keith giving 20,000, and I guess they left out Chuck. So they say that Daryl McDavid paid Lisa Van Allen and Keith off, not R. Kelly, Daryl McDavid. She get in the court talking about some, he said I should have murked your ass. This shit is crazy as fuck. The tape has never been seen again. So if that is the case, then you would think if Daryl McDavid paid them, that means he obtained the tape, right? And the tape was never seen again up until they needed to roll it out. Interesting.
And the accountant in which they refer to is Daryl McDavid. Of course, Adam is somewhat on thin ice here, but his point in bringing this up was to establish Van Allen's extortionate ways. They also have left out in this plot the Minnesota woman, Lena Prado, has not been mentioned in court before, but Van Allen said she had known her since 1999.
They up here asking me, well, where did she come from? Well, first of all, you had the Olsen twins that came out here, and I believe that they referred to her as Birdie or Beverly. No, they said Beverly. Beverly is the name that they used on FaZe's channel. So, ask me how I knew the Minnesota accuser. Hello, if you following the storylines, they put it out here for you.
Van Allen did admit to stealing the $20,000, but she said that's not what R. Kelly was on trial for. So, to bring in this Lena Prado, she is the Minnesota accuser.
Yeah, she tried to go private because, again, they wanted to play the little stupid ass game. Like, I just made this shit up. She want to come on my page and act like, that's not me. That's not me. I didn't do that. Okay. You didn't do that. Okay. But then she gonna come back out with that goddamn post. I was that girl. I testified at the grand jury and all that bullshit. Showing the little interview that didn't see the light of day. She thought she was gonna get the same spotlight as Lisa's stinking ass.
Also known as Beverly, as told by others. This is a girl in which partook in threesomes with who I believe to be Van Allen and her baby daddy, Damon Pryor. Because if you do the research on Damon Pryor, he has about 8 baby mamas, in which it has been said that he likes to watch his girls participate in this type of activity, and that he has supervised this type of activity with other people.
Yeah, he on that Diddy shit.
To counteract the fact that Lisa Van Allen is now, or was then, trying to act like she never told Pryor about this Chuck and Keith character, you have a reporter by the name of Kim Jansen who was recently tweeting about this case. And you can go and look at all the tweets he made. And we even had
So again, when this case came about, people wanted to skip on by some of the reporters that reported on the case back in 2008. They got to tweeting certain things that I started to screenshot as well. Oh, you don't say. They did what? They was trying to set up press conferences and what? Shit, seemed like to me they need to put your motherfucking ass on the stand too.
conversation in which I pointed out the fact, doesn't this look like extortion to you? It details how Chuck and Keith were setting up press conferences in what appeared to be a shakedown. But according to him, he never got the opportunity to meet with the two characters.
Then they gonna block their motherfucking social medias. So it's like I said, it just seemed mighty funny when I put certain shit out there. Motherfuckers get to trying to scrub this and delete this and put this on private that you were boasting about so publicly. So why be offended if people screenshot that shit? When they was sitting here boasting about surviving R. Kelly, boasting about this, boasting about the tape. Screenshot. Little did I know they was gonna be on the damn witness stand again. Well, I ain't gonna say again because they wasn't on the first stand, but we saw what they were doing during the first trial. So the prosecutor's gonna get them immunity to get their ass up there and couldn't even secure the obstruction conviction. Make it make sense.
Anybody with eyes can see. With the sex tapes that have been released and leaked in an effort to extort R. Kelly, the images seen do not add up. Mere observation led me to believe that Damon Pryor is one of the individuals in the alleged R. Kelly sex.
So, what time is it? 2:09, 2:28. Yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up here and pick up on another live because obviously I have so much content to go back and revisit as people want to act like they don't know. First of all, why is R. Kelly in jail? Number two, all of the strategies that they had to implement to get him in jail, to get his bail denied, even to now him being isolated because of somebody else's bullshit. Like, how do you get put in solitary because somebody else has a cell phone? Makes no sense. And you have a phone number that was given to you. Anyways, that's about all. That's about all I'm going to hit on tonight. Y'all have a good morning. And we'll see when I pop out next. Make sure your notifications are on all because people don't be getting my notifications. If you don't put it on all, it'll randomly give you certain ones. And make sure you like and share the content.